Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 11th VALPRO Path podcast. My name is Anna Stefanovic. I'm Communication and Dissemination Manager from Foodscale Hub, based in Serbia. We're leading communication, dissemination, and exploitation activities in the VALPRO Path project. As in every episode, we're speaking about the plant proteins in Europe. And today we are thrilled to be joined by Dr. Aoife O'Gorman, Research Project Manager at University College Dublin, leading the Protein-I project. While ProPet and Protein-I share a common goal to enhance plant protein production and reduce Europe's reliance on imported proteins. Today, we will talk about how our projects align, how do they differ, and how these efforts can work together for a more sustainable food system. Dr. Aoife, welcome. It is a pleasure to have you here today, and thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me on today. Thank you.
So we can start with the first question. Protein-I takes a holistic approach to plant protein production, focusing on crop-based value chains and rural development. Can you give us an overview of how Protein-I is making an impact on Ireland's agri-food sector?
Thanks, I'd love to. Yeah, so Protein-I is supporting the shift to more sustainable plant-based protein production in Ireland by focusing on crops that will grow well in our climate and are suitable for human consumption. Crops like wheat, barley, rye, and peas. And we're working with farmers and researchers to identify the best varieties, not just for yield, but for nutritional value. And at the same time, we're identifying new value chains that support rural communities, helping farmers to diversify and add value locally. We're trying to create a more resilient, healthy, and climate smart food system. In terms of the consumer side of our work, our partners in Queen's University Belfast have led exciting work in co-creating new plant-based protein products with consumers. And this kind of engagement really helps ensure that the products that we develop are not only nutritious, but they're also appealing and aligned with people's tastes and expectations. And we see this as a really important step toward encouraging more diverse protein sources in the Irish diet. And in parallel as well on Protein-I, researchers in University College Dublin have recently completed a human intervention study where their study is to explore what happens when we diversify our protein intake, particularly by increasing plant protein. And the goal then is to understand the impact this shift has on the nutritional status and health markers. Sample analysis on this study is currently underway, and we're really looking forward to the insights this will offer as we work to promote healthier and more sustainable dietary patterns.
Thank you very much. Yeah. The second question is about both of our projects. So both the projects are working toward more sustainable plant protein production. In your view, how can projects like ours complement each other to drive meaningful change in Europe's food system?
So projects like Protein-I and VALPRO Path really complement each other because we're tackling the same problem, but from different angles. So VALPRO Path is doing lots of great work across Europe with crops like lentils and chickpeas, while Protein-I is more focused on crops such as wheat, barley, and peas. So sharing learnings across projects will help to build a more diverse and resilient crop base. We're also both looking at the bigger picture, from what's grown in the field to how it reaches people's plates. So by aligning efforts on value chains, farmer support and consumer engagement, we can push for change across the whole food system.
Thank you very much. Speaking about circularity, it is a key pillar for both the projects, VALPRO Path and Protein-I. Can you share more about how Protein-I is converting crop waste into valuable protein products and what benefits this brings to rural communities?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Protein-I, we're exploring how crop residues like spent brewer's grain can be converted into mycoprotein using fungi. And this work has been led by University College Dublin's Fiona Doohan, whose team are testing whether certain plant pathogens, which are great at breaking down plant material, can turn these low-value byproducts into high-protein fungal biomass. And although this is still at the early stages, the findings were promising enough to secure follow-on funding through the Research Ireland Challenge Fund for a new project called Fungi Tech. This next stage allows the team to scale up the work, to explore additional substrates, and to develop products with industry and consumers. So looking ahead, really, this could pave the way for circular value chains in rural communities, where what was once seen as waste becomes a resource for sustainable food production and economic diversification.
Interesting. Thank you very much. In the VALPRO Path project, we often discuss the challenges farmers face in growing more plant proteins. What is the perspective of Protein-I? What are the biggest barriers to adoption, and how we can encourage more farmers to diversify their crops?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And in Protein-I, we have a lot of engagement with farmers, whether it's through direct collaboration in terms of field trials or also through stakeholder workshops. And that's great. And what's great is that we find that farmers are really open and positive about the idea of growing plant protein crops for human consumption. But as you mentioned, there are a number of barriers. And one of the big ones is incentives. So the best varieties best suited for human food often have lower yield than feed varieties. So without proper support, they're less attractive financially to the farmers. And another issue, of course, is market demand. So farmers need to know there's a buyer at the other end for their crops. And right now, here in Ireland, the infrastructure for things like milling or processing these crops for food isn't quite where it needs to be. So to really move things forwards, we need stronger policy support, clearer market signals, and investment in local supply chains and infrastructure.
Understand. Thank you. Protein-I is working on a smart supply chain technology solution. So can you explain to us how this technology support transparency and what impact do you think it could have on consumer trust and public health overall?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Protein-I, our partners in the University of Ulster have developed a smart supply chain tool that helps track crops from field to fork and making it easier to see where food comes from and how it's being produced. So it supports provenance, which is all about trust. Consumers increasingly want to know where their food is coming from and also how it was grown. So by making that visible through technology, we can help to build stronger connections between farmers and consumers. One of the add-on features on this tool is a carbon calculator, which can estimate the environmental impact of producing a particular crop or product, and things like emissions from farming and transport. And this kind of transparency can be valuable for both consumers and producers trying to make more sustainable choices.
I totally agree. As the last question, we are always speaking about the future. So looking ahead, where do you see the future of plant protein production in Ireland and in Europe overall? And how can projects like VALPRO Path and Protein-I shape a more resilient, sustainable food system?
Absolutely. So the future of plant proteins production in Ireland and Europe is definitely growing. We're seeing increasing interests from consumers, policymakers, and the food industry in developing local sustainable alternatives to imported protein sources. So to make that shift again, we need to support the farmers in growing crops that are that is suitable in our climate. So for here, things like oats, barley, peas, etc., and to ensure that there's a viable market for those crops. That means investment in terms of processing infrastructure, domestic supply chains, and developing appealing food products that meet consumer needs. So projects like Protein-I and VALPRO Path are key to that transition. They're identifying the most promising crops, working with farmers through trials and workshops, and developing tools that bring transparency, circularity, and innovation into the food system. So by combining scientific research, on-the-ground engagement, and policy development, these projects are helping to de-risk diversification for farmers and drive demand for sustainable homegrown plant proteins.
Thank you very much. We are happy that we are on the right road doing it. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much, Dr. Aoife, for sharing your insights. And of course, thanks to all of our listeners for joining on this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more updates. And of course, feel free to contact us if you have some suggestions for the next topics. Stay connected, stay tuned. See you in the next episode. Bye.